Good morning, everyone. On this Wednesday in the 10th week in Ordinary Time, we are going through the book of First Kings, and it's an incredible journey through the eyes of the great prophet Elijah. And we're in chapter 18, verses 20 through 39. Ahab sent to all the children of Israel and had the prophets assemble on Mount Carmel. Elijah appealed to all the people and said, "How long will you straddle the issue? If the Lord is God, follow him. If Baal, follow him." The people, however, did not answer him. So Elijah said to the people, "I am the only surviving prophet of the Lord, and there were 450 prophets of Baal? Give us 2 young bulls. Let them choose one, cut it into pieces, and place it on the wood, but start no fire. I shall prepare the other and place it on the wood, but shall start no fire. You shall call on your gods, and I will call on the Lord. The God who answers with fire is God." All the people answered, "Agreed." Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "Choose one young bull and prepare it first, and there are more of you. Call upon your gods and do not start the fire." Taking the young bull that was started over to them, they prepared it and called on Baal from morning to noon, saying, "Answer us, Baal." But there was no sound and no one answering. And they hopped around the altar they had prepared. When it was noon, Elijah taunted them, "Call louder, for he is a god and may be meditating, or may be retired, or may be on a journey. Perhaps he is asleep and must be awakened." They called out louder and slashed themselves with swords and spears, as was their custom, until blood gushed over them. Noon passed, and they remained in a prophetic state until the time for offering sacrifice. But there was not a sound, no one answered, and no one listening. Then Elijah said to all the people, "Come here to me." When the people had done so, he prepared the altar of the Lord that had been destroyed. He took 12 stones for the number of tribes of the sons of Jacob, to whom the Lord had said, "Your name shall be Israel." He built an altar in honor of the Lord with the stones, and made a trench around the altar large enough for 2 measures of grain. When he had arranged the wood, he cut up the young bull and laid it on the wood. "Fill 4 jars with water," he said, "and pour it over the burnt offering and over the wood." "Do it again," he said, and they did it again. "Do it a 3rd time," he said, and they did it a 3rd time. The water flowed around the altar, and the trench was filled with the water. At the time for offering sacrifice, the prophet Elijah came forward and said, "Lord God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel, and I am your servant, and have done all these things by your command. Answer me, Lord, answer me, that this people may know that you, Lord, are God, and that you have brought them back to their senses." The Lord's fire came down and consumed the burnt offering, wood, stones, and dust, and it lapped up the water in the trench. Seeing this, all the people fell prostrate and said, "The Lord is God. The Lord is God." The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Well, there's a challenge that Elijah is giving to the children of Israel. They are following after Baal. There is this enticement to be with the different gods of the territory, this area around them. And they are finding all these new prophets that are around there that are helping them out, encouraging them in this practice. And Jezebel tore down the altar that was there, the altar that was given, dedicated to the Lord God. And so there is this challenge. Now, the challenge is in a way that both those that were worshipers of Baal and those that are the followers of the Lord God both would understand. And it had to do with fire. Now, this is what it means by this. Fire is noted, and I'm looking at my notes to make sure I get all this exactly right. Fire represents the acceptance of a sacrifice. So it was understood. If Baal did this, then Baal was accepting the sacrifice that was there. The second thing that is important here is it's connected to Baal because he's supposed to be the god of thunderbolts. He's supposed to one that if there's thunder, it's there, and he's the one who would be providing for this. So it makes sense. If you're going to have this one, then Baal will be the god. So they were accommodating, saying, well, of course, he's the god of thunderbolts. He's going to do this. And another part about fire is that fire is an indication of the presence of God. Now this, we all realize. It was at Mount Sinai that it was like fire that came from when the law was given to Moses. And then the new Sinai, as we had studied on Pentecost, it was like tongues of fire. So the presence of God is associated with this fire. So all of that is there, kind of like a common language, whether you are a worshiper of Baal or the Lord God. So the contest comes with this. And it's in the middle of the drought. And remember that Elijah asked that they put this water 3 times. I mean, enormous amounts of water. So he wanted to make sure it was this animal was, I mean, the sacrifice was drenching wet. It wasn't going to be just some sort of hocus pocus. This was drenched. And more than likely, the water was from the Mediterranean because it's just right down the slopes of Mount Carmel. You can see it. Well, if you're in Haifa today, it's a beautiful sight looking down the city of Haifa. It's there at the Mediterranean. So they probably brought that water up there, especially with water being of such a precious commodity during the famine that was there. At any rate, instead of what the prophets of Baal were cutting themselves up and dancing around and trying to conjure up Baal, Elijah just straightforward asks for the help of God, and he consumes the whole thing. And it had to have been an incredible experience for the folks around there. And no wonder why they just stood in awe and just prostrated themselves in worship before God. You wonder if we need things like that more often to just kind of like shape people into our senses of what our true posture needs to be before God. It's worth contemplating the wonder of how God did this in this situation. He didn't do it again. It was kind of like a one-time thing of this. But it was definitely there to make it known in certain terms that the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is the true God, the one in whom we serve today. Stay safe, folks. Hopefully we see each other soon. Bye for now.